Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. Thank you so much for joining in. I really do appreciate it. As always, make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck and, of course, with the Atlanta Braves. And there is a lot going on in Braves country today, folks. Absolutely a ton. Last night, let's start with that. Robinson Cano gets picked up, and I absolutely love this deal. Robinson Cano in AAA was hitting .333 with 3 homers. So obviously this is a big pickup. With the loss of Ozzie Albies earlier this season, this is a great piece to put in for right now and could be a big piece for the rest of the season. I mean, this is a guy that could give you an off day. This is a guy that once Ozzie returns could return to the bench. I mean, we all know who Robinson Cano is. The best part about the Robinson Cano deal is the fact that the Mets are paying for most of it. We are not only paying him the league minimum, we are paying him a prorated salary for the league minimum. So we're talking less than $500,000 a year, while the Mets are paying him up to $24 million. So this is a huge deal for the Braves. Big pickup and a timely deal by AA, picking up Robinson Cano once we were sure that he's good to go. Now, beyond that, there's been a lot more going on. Today, the Braves also brought back Adam Duvall from the paternity list. He will be in action tonight alongside Robinson Cano. To make room on the roster, they designated Phil Gosselin for assignment, and they optioned Mike Ford to AAA. That was kind of expected, but that is the case there. The bigger news today is that the Braves also traded Drew Waters along with 2 other minor league prospects and for a draft pick. And this caught a lot of folks off guard because Drew Waters has received a lot of hype since he was picked by the Braves, first overall pick by the Braves a few years ago. This is interesting. And they got the 35th pick. Now, a lot of people are going, why are they going after a draft pick right now? Well, the draft is Sunday, so there's a lot to prepare for. To be honest with you, I think AA's got something deeper at work that we're not going to know about. If you remember last year, we were playing checkers and AA was playing chess. I think the same thing could be done. Maybe not quite to the degree it was last year, but I still think something could be at play. The fact that they're talking to the Royals, I think, is interesting, but there's no telling who else they're talking to. So this is very, very interesting. And before we go any further, guys, I'm going to answer all your questions. I'm going to go through the chat as much as I can today. But do me a favor, share the video. Share it on Twitter, share it on YouTube, share it on anywhere. Instagram, I don't care. Just share it, especially on Facebook. That drives it as well. But yeah, tell your friends about the channel also. Thank you guys for tuning in. Obviously a very big deal for the Braves today. They will be getting the number 35 pick in Sunday's MLB Draft from the Royals, and they are giving up Drew Waters, Andrew Hoffman, and C.J. Alexander to do that. Now, I am surprised. Now, a lot of people are caught off guard. I think we all would wish that we got more out of the Drew Waters trade, but the fact of the matter is his value has dropped. And look, I like Drew Waters. I interviewed Drew Waters a few years ago. I am a Drew Waters fan as a person. But on the field, it has not measured up to first overall pick potential. It just hasn't. And I hate to say that's the case, but it has been. And I hate it. But at the same time, we have to move forward. I think the fact that Michael Harris jumped from AA all the way to the big leagues and is having any number of success, much less the success that he is having, assured us that he is the center fielder of the future. I think we're all pretty aware that that's the case now. The fact that we called Pache up, we called Michael Harris up, but we never called Drew Waters up should tell you something. 2022 stats this year in the minor leagues and 200 at-bats. He's got 6 homers, 18 RBIs, 5 stolen bases. He's hitting .252, and he's got a .311 on base. Not terrible numbers, but certainly not that of Michael Harris. And to be honest with you, I think we've just established that Michael Harris is the guy. And with the Braves outfield in particular, it's very crowded. Obviously, Ronald Acuna is not going anywhere. Michael Harris not going anywhere. Ozuna locked up for a few years. Duvall, Rosario's locked up for 2 years. You got to trade Drew while he's got some value, and right now he's got a little bit of value left and we got a draft pick out of it. To be honest with you, I like this move by Alex Anthopoulos. I know a lot of people aren't going to. They're not going to see what it's worth. I do. I think this could be very influential. And to be honest with you, we might have the 35th pick, but we might trade the 35th pick for something else later on. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but there's options with this move. And I think this is very interesting. And I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited about it. I think this is crazy. The fact that we got Robinson Cano and we're hardly paying him a dime, I think is awesome. But yeah, it's going to be a very exciting night tonight. You know, I think Robinson Cano ought to get there early and walk over to the Mets dugout and give him his change of address so they can send him his check for tonight. But it's going to be a fun night. So obviously, the Braves are also creeping up on the Mets. That's the other thing I failed to mention. They are creeping up on the Mets. We're 1.5 games back as of right now. Tonight, it's going to go one way or the other. So we'll see. Hopefully, it's the way we want it to go in the right direction. But this is something else for sure. I didn't expect the trade deadline to pick up quite this early. I got some stuff planned for it. This week I was actually editing a video, and all this news dropped. I had to kind of throw this together, so bear with me. But yeah, this is quite the news cycle. You know, obviously the Robinson Cano deal last night, and I mean Phil Gosselin got DFA'd. You know, if you had told me that 3 days ago, I would have been surprised. You know, with Cano, I'm not so much surprised. But it's been very exciting for sure. So let's get into your guys' comments. And again, make sure to like the video. Make sure to share the content. I saw Max Cruz tweeted me out. Thank you. Make sure you share the content. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We get on here and talk about Braves baseball very regularly, so make sure you're on here as well. I do appreciate it. Make sure to share to Facebook, share to Instagram, Reddit, wherever. Just share it. And, of course, like the video on your way in and out. Appreciate it, guys. What's going on, SIE? Appreciate you tuning in. Tice Thompson says he was hoping to get a little bit more for Waters, but his value has gone down so much, this will work. That's the thing, right? We are retooling our poor minor league system because right now our farm system is not what it once was. And granted, you're not always going to have the #1 farm system. You got to call these guys up at some point, right? We're starting to see the results of that when we pulled up Ozzie, Acuna, Riley, Fried, Soroka. When we started pulling all those guys up, our minor leagues got a lot worse in rating, right? They're still not that great. I think they're about middle of the road right now, maybe. And that's not, going to cut it if we're building towards the future like we say we are. And I think we are playing for right now, but we got to retool our bad farm system. We can't have, notice we traded 3 minor leaguers for 1 draft pick. We have to retool. We have to get, guys that are going to perform in the future as well. And look, I know a lot of people aren't excited about this. Think about this for a second. The Braves draft really well. They got Jesse Franklin, Spencer Strider, and I want to say Bryce Elder amidst all first 5 picks a couple of years ago. Okay, so they can be very successful with the draft. And I think, we got to see the bigger picture here. This is very exciting. For sure. So, but just keep that in mind. I know it doesn't seem like much, but it could be a lot more than what you're giving it credit for. We're just going to have to wait a few years to find out. Coach K, thanks for tuning in. Michael Foster says, I'm happy for Waters, to be honest. Fresh start and a chance to be in the big leagues. I agree. Like I said, I'm a Waters fan. I think like Pache got the chance to go play in Oakland and play every day, I think Waters is going to get that chance. That's the thing about the Braves. The Braves are not able to wait for a guy to perform. I think on a team like the Royals, he'll be able to, to have that ability to be waited on a bit and to develop. But unfortunately, he could not do that in a Braves uniform. Doyle Barbecue says, as a Royals fan, what did we get with Waters? Well, I believe you got a pretty good hitter, to tell you the truth. You got 6 homers in the minor leagues right now, 252. I mean, he's a former #1 overall pick. I mean, the dude's pretty good. Outfielder, can field well, and he's overall a pretty good hitter. He's just, when you got a guy like Michael Harris, it's hard to jump up in the minors. And when you have a guy like Michael Harris who jumps from AA all the way to big leagues over you and doesn't even spend any time in AAA, then that kind of tells you where you're at. So you got a good player, but like I said, when we have a guy like Michael Harris who's performing, I think we knew that outfield is not our priority. You got a good player, though, for sure. We like Drew Waters in Braves country, so thank you for tuning in, Doyle. I really do appreciate it. Tice Thompson says a lot of strikes, but strikeout rates have been going down this year. sorry, kind of threw me off there. Jackson Lord says Waters is a talented player with strikeout issues. Yeah, that's see what you're saying, Tyus. Yeah, Waters has battled with strikeouts for sure. But like Ty says, they've been going down. I think he is developing. I think it's just taking a little longer than what the Braves were hoping for. And like I said, Michael Harris has the potential to be something huge, bigger than expected, I think, to some degree. And we've been hearing, just to tell you this, Doyle, I know you're kind of asking, we've been hearing about Michael Harris for years now. You know, since we picked him in rookie ball, that he was going to be the next big outfielder. And I kept saying, well, what about Christian Pache? What about Drew Waters? What about so-and-so? You know, these guys are in line, and then Michael Harris jumped the line. So I think that's where we're at with Drew Waters. We'll see how he develops in Kansas City. Obviously, we wish him the best. We wish you guys the best. Maybe in a few years he'll be the star player that he was always intended to be. Bill Gates says, dropping bombshells, my dude. What? Hey, watch your mouth. Doyle Barbecue says, seems like a great trade for the 35th pick for the Royals. I agree. I think both teams win here. I really do. I completely agree. Michael Foster says the Mets got fleeced. Yeah, they're paying a lot of money. I want to say they have the #1 payroll this year too. So this is if Robinson Cano somehow came out and hit a 3-run bomb in the second inning or something, it would be absolutely nuts. So yeah, it's exciting for the Braves. I think the Mets definitely feel the pressure with the Braves on their heels. This is a very exciting time for Braves fans. Obvious reasons, and when you got a general manager like AA, you just never know what's around the corner. Today is a great example. You know, he makes moves that he makes moves that are kind of unexpected, sometimes under the radar. Robinson Cano is a great hitter, and I think his move was under the radar for what we're paying him and the amount of attention it got last night. I think it's very under the radar, and I think it's going to really benefit the Braves, especially with Ozzie Albies out. You know how, okay, for example, AA, Freddie Freeman. At some point, we found out he's not attainable, right? We go to Matt Olson. Same situation here with Ozzie. Okay, Ozzie's hurt. What's the next best option? You got Phil Gosselin, Orlando Arcia. They can cover it for the time being, and then we look elsewhere. We look out. We see what's out there. I mentioned Whit Merrifield. There's a Royal for you. I mentioned that the Braves could have traded for Whit Merrifield for a second baseman, left-handed bat. All of a sudden, they go get Robbie Cano for hardly any money. They didn't lose any prospects, in that deal. But that's the kind of thing that AA Alex Anthopoulos is able to do that I think a lot of us don't really realize what all is at play until it's over. And I think that's one of the things that makes AA as successful as he is and as good as a general manager as he is. Thanks you guys for tuning in. I know it's early compared to when I usually stream, but obviously with all the news I had to get on here quickly. I don't know, Jace. We'll see. We will see. Michael Carey asks, what are they going to do with Arcia? I would assume he's going to do what he did. I would assume he's going to do before we got Cano, and that's going to be that he's going to go to the bench. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think he had a couple of walk-offs earlier this year from the bench. So he can be successful from the bench. He got his playing time. He was always going to go back to the bench once Ozzie came back. I do have some concern about, maybe they know something we don't about Ozzie. But other than that, I'm excited about this. I think, for the time being, we need to embrace the fact that we got Robinson Cano. I think that's going to be good for us. I think it's going to be, frankly, another left-handed bat. I've been preaching we need left-handed bats. We need left-handed bats. Here's one right here with Robinson Cano. So we'll see. But, yeah, Arcia is probably going back to the bench for the time being. I don't see how he can be anywhere else. And let's be honest, guys, when we're looking at the lineup, there was an obvious hole at the bottom of it, and a lot of that, some of that was Arcia, and, there was a hole in them 7 and 8 spots. And Michael Harris who's been electric in the 9 hole, he's done his job, but you can always improve that. And I think Robinson Cano is a huge improvement at second base. And, I would say the same thing over Phil Gosselin too. So I think this is big. And I think the fact that you're going to have an everyday player who has been an everyday player for his career, I think is huge. And Arcia has been great. I mean, Arcia's arm defensively is, miles beyond what Phil Gosselin's was. And I think it's been good. I think he's got a stronger arm than Ozzy. But that being said, I think they wanted to get something a little bit more consistent, and I think Robinson Cano, the fact that he's performing as well as he is in AAA, again hitting .333 with 3 homers, I think that's spoke a lot of volumes to AA, and the fact that we're paying him less than league minimum is speaking volumes as well. So I think it's big. I think it's a very big deal, more so to get Robinson Cano more than the 35th pick. But the fact that we traded Drew Waters says a lot. I think it says where we are in our faith in Drew Waters to some degree, but I think it says more in our faith in Michael Harris. And I think this is a big deal. I think it speaks, it should speak directly to you and tell you where the team is at and what to prepare for, because Michael Harris has proven himself. I think we're all aware of that. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Again, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. I always appreciate you guys tuning in. We are here early today. We're usually doing this at about 8 o'clock at night, so this is different. But it's been a while since I've got to talk to you guys directly. The Braves are playing every day, so this is my favorite time of the year, trade deadline. This is when most conversations we're having about baseball is happening at the trade deadline. We got a lot more this week, so make sure you subscribe so that you're up to date with everything. Jesse Lancaster says, I still believe in Waters, and I know we have a crowded outfield, but still don't like this trade, at least 2 picks. I get that. I get that to some degree, but you got to realize where Drew Waters' value is. I mean, the fact that we're pulling in 2 more minor leaguers to throw in there tells you where the Braves are with it. And again, they picked Pache coming up over Drew Waters. Then they picked Michael Harris coming up over Drew Waters. You can only spend so much time clogging the minor league system before you got to go somewhere. You got to maybe have a chance somewhere else. So we wish him the best. We thank him for his time in a Braves uniform. But and look, I hate to say it. I mean, I believe he's a Georgia kid, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say he is born and raised in Georgia. Yeah, born in Atlanta, Georgia. So I hate to lose a guy that was born in the hometown kid, but at the same time, his value has dropped so much. And, I mean, look, guys, the Braves are the defending World Series champions. They got to have some requirement, or some point to where it's, okay, we got to move to the next guy. I think we've hit that point. I think we hit that point when we called Michael Harris up. And I told you guys, when that happened, before that happened, I had people on here saying, who are we going to bring up in the outfield? I was like, well, if we're going to bring anybody up, it needs to be Drew Waters, because if it's not, I have questions about where he's at, where we value him. And sure enough, the first chance we got, we traded him for a draft pick. So that's the kind of thing that I've been expecting for a while. Something's got to give, right? He's either got to be traded for something or he's got to be called up to the big leagues. He never got called up to the big leagues. We called someone who was below him in the minors above him. So that kind of told me, that kind of hinted, hey, we might trade Drew Waters. And sure enough, that time came. Richard Davis says, I could see trading Waters to Pittsburgh for Reynolds. Don't really see this. Will depend on who they draft. Sure, I'll tell you that Pittsburgh has got so many different walls up when it comes to Brian Reynolds, because Alex Anthopoulos flat out said when we made the Richard Rodriguez trade, we were in on Reynolds. We were looking at Reynolds. I told you that we should be looking at Reynolds. I did a video last year saying Richard Rodriguez and Brian Reynolds are priority. Get an outfielder, because we didn't have one at the time, and get some bullpen help all in one move. Now, that didn't happen. We got Richard Rodriguez, but not Brian Reynolds, and it's because they see Brian Reynolds as the future of Pittsburgh. That's great. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's great. They hold him to a very high value, and rightfully so. I don't think Waters held the value to get Brian Reynolds. I don't know that the three minor leaguers we had today fit the bill to go get Brian Reynolds, to tell you the truth. I don't think it would have. But I think this move, depending on how they use it, as you said, is the best thing that we probably could have done. And look, I'm just going to be honest with you. For me, I trust Alex Anthopoulos, and I have for years now. I like every move he's ever made. There's only been a few that I've questioned. There's always been a reason behind it. And after last year, there's no reason for me not to. That being said, Yeah, you can question some of this. I think I think Alex Anthopoulos wishes he could have got more out of Drew Waters, but the fact is he couldn't. I don't think. Otherwise, he would have. Because, look, we traded two of our biggest prospects earlier this season, Shea Langoliers and Christian Pache, who I value Shea Langoliers a little bit more there, significantly more actually. But we traded him for Matt Olson. We know when to make big deals. We know when to make big trades. I think they knew the value here, and I think they took what they could get at the right time. Because, look, 35th pick doesn't sound that great. It would sound a lot better if it was the 12th pick, right? But it's not. It's the 35th, but it's still the first round. And look, it's Sunday. We're going to know what they do pretty immediately. So make sure you tune into the draft Sunday. And look, we'll see. But I really think his value dropped. And this is how low it dropped. And I think a lot of people realizing it for the first time that this is how low the value dropped. I think it surprised a lot of people. Let me see. Richard Davis says he doesn't like the Cano signing. Hope it doesn't mess with the chemistry. To be honest with you, Richard, I think he'll mix in well with the likes of Acuna and Ozzie whenever he comes back. I think that kind of chemistry will work fine. I don't think he's going to mess up the Braves' chemistry. I don't think one player is quite that strong to do that. But I think the Braves have a very good chemistry. And look, if he doesn't work out, he'll be gone. We're not paying him anything. Very low risk. That's what I like about it, is it's so low risk and high reward. So you might not like it. He might not be your favorite player, but this is a good move by the front office. And you got to agree with me there. So, yes, SIE, he is in the lineup tonight. He will be playing second base. So, I think, it's interesting. It's very interesting. We'll see, though. Mark Perez wants to know who they're considering selecting with that 35th pick. Well, if I knew that, I would know everything, wouldn't I? I don't know that, unfortunately, but we'll see Sunday. We will see. I'm sure they have a lot of considerations. I'm sure they have a lot of folks that they're looking at, but they're not going to let that out. The Braves have a very tight-lipped staff in the front office. They're not going to let that out, but I'm sure there's 5 or 6 guys they got lined up because there's 34 picks before that. It's going to be really hard to see who the ideal candidate. If I had a pick, it'd be Drew Jones. But, he'll probably be an Oriole, more than likely. John Main says the Braves clubhouse is too strong for Cano to be a bad influence. I agree. I think in a weaker clubhouse, I think, something like that could happen. I don't know that Cano is that big of a bad influence. I mean, look, the Braves have had their fair share. I don't think we got to worry about that. I really don't. We have been through far worse than whatever Cano is going to bring us on a random Monday afternoon. Michael Foster, I agree with you. Jesus, Tyler, should I also focus on AAA? Yeah, focus on AAA. Focus on AA. There's guys down there. And a lot of the guys we draft, watch the draft Sunday night. Watch who we draft. Keep an eye out. I did a draft video a few years ago. Never in my dreams would I have imagined that Spencer Strider would be where he's at today. This early, at least. Bryce Elder, he's well on his way. Those guys were in the same draft. Jesse Franklin, we haven't seen him yet. He's on his way as well. There are guys that we don't even know the potential yet. And we don't know what this 35th pick is going to be either. You may not like it, but they've got to prioritize who is the future. Drew Waters, I hate to break it to you, we know now is not the future of the Atlanta Braves. We know that now. It's not Robinson Cano. It's whoever we pick up. It's Michael Harris, and it's the guys that are in the minor leagues right now. And it may shrink further, but the future of the Braves is not Drew Waters. It is Michael Harris. I think we know that now. And, somebody threw this out to me earlier. Once all this, I got text messages, and I talked to folks. But they mentioned that Kyle Muller might be a trade piece. He's running out of options. He is the pitcher of the month in June. So he could be a nice trade piece. Do I want it to happen? No. If we do it, it's got to be a good return. It's got to be something worthwhile. That's different than Drew Waters. That I would expect at least 2 or 3 bullpen pieces that are solid. I need a Bednar back, from Pittsburgh if I'm going to trade a Kyle Muller, right? That being said, I hope it doesn't happen. I think Kyle Muller's got a very bright future, and I hope it's in a Braves uniform. But if you're going to trade someone like that, who was the pitcher of the month in June and has a bright future and is a young starting pitching arm that is successful, that's when you get something good back. That's when you get a major, package back. And, something like a David Bednar would be great. But Brian Reynolds, I know somebody mentioned Brian Reynolds. We don't need an outfielder. We're stocked up on outfield. I mean, really, like Eddie Rosario, Adam Duvall, Ronald Acuna, Marcell Ozuna, now Michael Harris. We're stocked up. We're good. That being said, I would love to have Brian Reynolds, but there's nowhere for him to go. We're wondering where we're going to put Adam Duvall some nights. So I don't think you got to think about it that way. You got 9 positions on the field. You got to fill them up. Beyond that, you got to build for the future to some degree, but you got to focus on depth. And Robinson Cano, if nothing else, will be depth till the end of the season. And we're hardly paying him a dime. The Mets are paying him to beat them. That's what's going on here. So I think it's great. Super Nick 2006 says, any positions you want to trade for? I'm going to do a lot of videos this week on trade ideas, okay, and scenarios. I think there's not really a position. I mean, second base was highlighted because of the Albies injury, but I think we've solved that, or at least temporarily solved that. The infield's pretty much solved. The starting rotation, I think if the only weak link I see in the starting rotation is Ian Anderson to some degree. He had a good day the other night. But with that, even with Ian, if he was to falter, you got Mike Soroka in the way. You got Kyle Muller, who's the pitcher of the month in the minors. You have options within. The only thing I could see you trading for is bullpen. And even then, it's hard for me to say, it's a desperate need, which I think it is to some degree. I think 1 or 2 pieces would be great, but that's where I'm at. Now, look, I didn't expect any of what we did last year. I thought our offense was fine. All of a sudden, we go get Jorge Soler, Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario. I mean, we got all these guys that came out of the woodwork that I didn't even expect. So a lot of times, on paper, doesn't really mean anything. And I hate to break it to you, Alex Anthopoulos knows more than all of us combined on how the Braves are operating and what they need to do. So, I think bullpen is what I'm looking at. But even then, it's not necessarily what's going to happen. Because, look, we hardly made any bullpen moves. We got Richard Rodriguez, and he was done before the season was out. So, it's I don't know that we're going to make any moves. But this is all very, very interesting. I appreciate you guys tuning in, though. I really do. Thanks for liking the video. Thanks for sharing all that stuff. You guys are really active today, and I appreciate it. Bill Gates says, why not bring up Vaughn Grissom instead of Cano? Robinson was a great player, but he's old and done. Well, again, you're not paying him hardly anything. You don't want to waste a young player's options. And on top of that, it's also, with Vaughn Grissom, you want him to develop. And look, everybody's seen Michael Harris come up. Everybody saw Acuna come up and instantly perform. That doesn't always happen. You got to give him time to grow. I know he's going to be good, but you got to give him time to grow. And I don't think that's necessarily a great idea. Robbie Cano has been performing lately, too. Like, I know you're saying he's old and done. He has been performing. He's hitting .333 in the minors with 3 homers. Let's give him a shot. And if nothing else, he knows the Mets forward and backwards. So, we'll see what he knows. But, let's just worry about beating the Mets tonight. Let's not criticize our own guys, all right? John Maine says, Cano was a move to try and replace Albies' power, but also to play mind games with the Mets. I think some of that's true. I don't think you got what you got with Ozzie out of Arcia or Gosselin or the combination of both of them. I think you get a little bit more consistency at the plate with Cano. And I really think, the power, too, is a big factor. But it might be to play a little mind games with the Mets. Ryan Baker wants to know, are you going to the game tonight? Unfortunately, I will not be going to the game tonight. I was at the game yesterday. Exciting walk-off, by the way. But no, I will not be going to the game tonight. I will be watching it from my home, and I will be chilling out here. But thanks for asking. Next time I go to the game, hopefully I'll see you there. Richard Davis says, Arcia was supposed to be the Swanson replacement until someone gets ready. Dansby is a $90 to $100 million player now. Maybe. I think Dansby, we're going to have to wait and see. I think you may see an extension offered to him at the All-Star break, and then we'll see what happens from there. But I'm pretty good on Dansby hanging around. Drew Phillips says the Royals are cheap. Well, yeah. Rick Prada says, good morning from California. Go Bravos. Thank you, Rick. It's good afternoon here, but thank you. Michael Carey says, I watched Cano play early on. He is willing to go after the ball defensively. Cano's a good player. I think a lot of people are just overlooking this because, look, Cano's had his battles for sure, but Cano's a good player. He's going to perform. And don't just, look over this. Cano is going to perform. Jesus says, Dodgers honestly want whoever. There were rumors that Freddie would try to recruit Dansby to L.A. I think they might be going after Juan Soto, but that's a video for another day. That's coming out later this week. Ronnie Redmond, I wonder who he belongs to, says, like to fix the bullpen and left field. More focused on the bullpen. Would love to go get David Bednar from the Pirates. That's where I'm at with that. Obviously, a Gregory Soto would be nice too. Bednar is where I'm really looking. Even if you could somehow convince Miami to give you Anthony Bender, his stats aren't that great, but that dude's filthy. So that's more so what I'm focused on. Look, Eddie Rosario's hitting a lot better now that he can see. I think we have a crowded outfield in general, so I don't know that left field is necessarily what we need. Bullpen, I think, is a need more so. King Kwando says, is Drew Waters bad? I'm a Royals fan. So, King Kwando, I know that's a weird name, but I got to say it. Kwando, here's the thing, right? Drew Waters is not bad. Drew Waters just never quite has met up to the expectation of a first overall pick. He was a first overall pick. Keep that in mind. He had 6 homers so far this year in minor leagues. 252 average. He's doing fine. The problem is the Braves don't have anywhere for him. Michael Harris has just jumped him. He's in the majors. Eddie Rosario's on a 2-year deal. Drew Waters is 23. He's never hit the big leagues. He needs a place where he can go to perform. Kansas City is now that place. There's just nowhere for him in Atlanta. He can't get any higher than AAA in Atlanta currently. And I think they took the opportunity to trade him for a draft pick to move forward and to allow him to move forward. So congrats. You got a great player in Drew Waters. Thanks for watching. A lot of Royals fans are tuning in. Must be something to do with the algorithm. Thanks for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Jorge says, hey, Tyler, genuinely surprised. Yeah, like I said, Jorge, a lot of folks got caught off guard by this. A lot of folks did. I didn't so much because I had a feeling that Drew Waters, once Michael Harris got called up, to me, that was the writing on the wall. That was, all right, he's probably going to be a trade piece. I thought it would be at the deadline. I didn't think it'd be this early, and I didn't think it'd be for a draft pick. I thought it might be for some bullpen pieces. Because he is a big poker chip, or at least he has been in recent memory. So, yeah, it's a little bit surprising. I think it's more surprising that it's this early more than anything. But I like the fact that we're being proactive. I think this is a solid move. I think we all knew that Drew wasn't the guy of the future, and as much as we hate to say it, because a lot of us have watched this guy in Gwinnett, a lot of us have, been waiting for this guy's arrival. Unfortunately, we never got to see it in an Atlanta uniform, but one day we will see it in a Kansas City uniform, hopefully. But yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm really not all that surprised. I get it why people are, because this is our first overall pick. What are we doing? Why are we trading for a draft pick? I get it, but I think this is a good move. I really do. In terms of Robinson Cano, I'm more surprised about the Cano pickup than anything. So I'm excited to watch the game tonight. I think it's going to be very exciting. And look, we're paying him, just for a second, let's pause. We're paying Robinson Cano league minimum, okay, for half the season. So league minimum is about $500,000 a year, give or take a few thousand. So that's nothing in terms of Major League Baseball. It's really nothing compared to a lot of the other contracts. Then you prorate that, you're talking $250 for half the season, and that's max. You're max paying Robinson Cano $250,000 to come play second base every day temporarily. That's a steal. And the Mets are paying the rest of it. And by the way, I said this earlier, but I'm going to say it again. The Mets have the highest payroll in the big leagues right now. And they haven't won the division in 4 years now, and it's looking like we're on their heels, so they might not win it for a fifth. And, they got a lot of good players. They have a good team, but it's not looking good for the New York Mets. If you don't follow Frank the Tank on TikTok, go follow Frank the Tank. If you're just a not confident baseball fan, if you're a Braves fan that's not confident in the team, go follow Frank the Tank. You'll be confident by tomorrow, I promise. Frank the Tank is a very good example of how most Mets fans feel. He just shows it a lot more. And I love following him. I absolutely love it. It's hilarious. And it's the Mets' journey through a season. It's start off great, the June swoon carries into now July, and now the Braves are back. That's the Mets' journey. And last year it happened a little bit later. It happened about September, August, September. But this year, it's going to happen. It could happen before the All-Star break. We got a 3-game series, and we're 1.5 games back. We might take first and run away with it. So, yeah, look, here's the thing. I love this pickup of Cano. And you can say it's mind games with the Mets. I genuinely think this is a good pickup overall. I don't care what team he used to play for. I think this is solid. You're talking about a guy that, without any other problems, probably goes in the Hall of Fame, no questions asked. And you're getting him for less than league minimum. So I think you just need to keep that in mind. This is a very good pickup by Alex Anthopoulos. Always, on the move for Alex Anthopoulos. I always support pretty much any move he makes, but this is legitimately a good one. Jesse Lancaster says, keep up the good work. Love the channel. Thank you. Tell your friends. That goes for all you guys out there. Tell your friends. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. But beyond that, thank you. I really do appreciate that. Jesse, he says he really likes the Cano pickup, but I think Arcia should still be starting mostly. Just my opinion. Well, look, Arcia, I think the thing about Arcia is he's not a second baseman. He's a shortstop. Historically, that's what he came up with the Brewers. So he is a shortstop, but he is an infielder. So you can give somebody a day off. You could put Riley at first, Arcia at third, and give Olsen a day off. There's things. This is options, and you got to try out Robbie Cano. You got to see what he can bring, because Arcia. If Robbie Cano's hitting 333 in Gwinnett, if he's hitting 333 in the minors with 3 homers, I don't know how many games he's played, but Arcia, I think Arcia's been good for the Braves. I think he's done his job again. But if you have more upside, you gotta give Robbie Cano that shot. He's a more proven hitter. You gotta give him that shot. And look, if it doesn't work out, so be it. But I really think that you gotta give him the chance. But I get your point. Richard Davis says, I'd say AA has a couple players in mind for the 35th pick. They need more young pitching. Position players are pretty well set for the next 5, 6 to 8 years, barring injuries and contract signings, if they sign Dansby back. I agree with you. I think Dansby wants to be back. I'm just going to say that now. I think that's legit. I think he wants to be back. I know with the Freddie Freeman stuff, we are going to have PTSD, and I get that. But Dansby Swanson, I firmly believe, wants to be back. Whether it happens or not, I can't speak to. But I think he genuinely wants to be back. So I agree with you. Position players are pretty set for the next 5, 6 to 8 years. I always show that timetable. It's a little bit dated now. I haven't updated it. I need to do that. But I always show that timetable. You got Olsen locked up for 8 years. You got Acuna locked up for, I think, another 8 years. Ozzie Albies locked up for at least another 6. Riley, I think you're going to have to re-sign about 2024. But like you said, you're pretty much locked up. And that's just the infield. In the outfield, you got Acuna. It's endless, right? So I agree with you. I think pitching is the focus, and should be when you're talking about drafting, right? Because what has the Braves' key to success been for years now? Pitching. It always has been. In the 90s, it was built on pitching. Guess what it's built on right now, guys? I know we got some exciting position players, but it's still built on pitching. The thing about it is, with the questions involving Soroka, the questions involving how long Morton's going to go before he inevitably hangs it up. There's things like that you have to consider, and I think pitching is where we need to go. The bullpen, they're not going to last forever. Those guys in the pen that we're all in love with right now, it's not going to last forever. You got to prepare for the future. I do think pitching is the key to success. Cletus and the boys. All right, is this Cletus or is it the boys? He says, I don't like the move because the prospect system is getting weak. I get that, but think about this. You traded away a guy, Drew Waters, who never amounted to that. He's lost value. So he's making your prospect ranking less. I get what you're saying because it seems like we're just trading away all our prospects. For now, we're retooling. We're trading 3 for a good one. That's what we're doing. We're retooling and getting our farm system back up some because you're right. It is getting weak. It is getting lower, but this is retooling. This is making something of it. And I think you're kind of overlooking that a bit here, Cletus, because if you don't retool, you're going to become just the bottom of the barrel in farm rankings, and you got to get that up. Russ says Max versus Max is going to be a great matchup tonight. Thank you for mentioning that. I cannot wait for that because obviously Scherzer's coming off injuries. Scherzer earned a lot of folks' respect, including mine the other night when I found out about the thing he did for the minor leaguers. I thought that was great. But beyond that, he's a great pitcher. Max Fried's a great pitcher. It's going to be a great matchup tonight. I completely agree. Jorge says, I don't like the fact teams can only trade for competitive, balanced draft picks. I wish it was like the NBA. Well, talk to Rob Manfred. I don't I don't know what to tell you. Jesse says, I really do like having a top 40 pick, though. The Braves are one of the best drafting teams in the league. I agree. I don't know how many times I've said that. They draft exceptionally well. They do really well with that. And, they believe in their picks, too. I mean, look at Harris. Just Inventory says sign Harris before he gets too expensive. Maybe. We'll see. Michael Carey says Strider is a strikeout machine. Sorry, I lost my place a bit. Let me see. Strider is a strikeout machine, still clocking an average 95 mile an hour per pitch. We'll see how it ages, but yeah, Strider's been absolutely great this year. I want to say in the latest poll I saw, him and Harris were tied for first in Rookie of the Year voting, according to the poll. But we'll see. One of them's going to win it, I think. Bill Gates says Harris is going to take 140 at least to sign. He's solid. We'll see how it goes. He's solid, though. I really think he's our outfielder of the future. Just Inventory says Strider could be one of the best long-term closers for 5 to 7 years. Got to wonder how long he can start with an arm like that. You got to let him do it as long as he can, buddy. Got to. And I think we're going to. Richard Davis says the Braves aren't hurting as of now anywhere at the trade deadline. Again, barring injuries, the Braves really have no place to put anybody if they trade for them. Well, not true. I think the bullpen. I do. And, you might look around the pen and say, well, where do you go? All about depth, guys. All about depth. So we'll see. Just Inventory makes a good point. They say the Braves are just so young. Contreras, Harris, Albies, Fried, Acuna, Riley, Strider. It's endless, it seems. I really think we're about to see a point to where it's not so much we're just going to have all these young guys. It's going to be these young guys that are growing together. I wish Soroka was amidst that list, to tell you the truth. I hope he can come back in quickly and join right back because, that guy was, he was our ace before Fried, if anybody remembers that. But that being said, I think we're going to hit a point where all these players are going to grow together. Dansby, Riley, they're going to age together. You're not going to see a young player come take Riley's spot, right? These players are going to grow as one. That's what makes this so important. Is these players have played together for a long time, especially the position players. They play together for such a long time. That's how you build a team, is they play together in the minors too. Look at Ozzie and Dansby, Ozzie and Acuna. They played together for a long time. They're growing together as players and as teammates, and I think it says a lot about the team. It's something a lot of other teams don't have. These store-bought teams, the Yankees, the Dodgers, they don't have that. And, they're starting to even follow that mold a bit. Because the Dodgers right now, guess what they're number 1 in? Farm system ranking, according to Bleacher Report, last I checked. So they're starting to follow that mold, and it's a mold that's working. The Yankees are following that mold. They're starting to use a lot of the guys that they drafted. They still go out and get some folks, but they're using a lot of the guys they drafted too. And that's the mold that seems to work. The Braves have mastered it in such a way to get these guys to re-sign, which is something that a lot of teams can't do. Because they got Acuna to sign a deal that's very affordable. Good for Acuna, good for the Braves. They got Riley. Hopefully they get him locked up. They got Albies on a deal that's solid. And they got Olsen on a deal that's solid. I mean, it's amazing what they're able to do. So I don't know why they're able to do it. I think a lot of it is the environment. I think a lot of it is the fact that they're a competitor and they're going to be for a while, that kind of thing. So it's exciting that, all these guys are performing. Hopefully it continues. But the Braves are built in such a way where if a guy is struggling, if a guy's not performing, or if he's not cut out for it, we got options. We got more options than one. And that's what I think makes the Braves so good. I mean, for example, when Acuna went down last year, we made some trades, but we had a lot of talent left, and we're not reliant on one bat. We're up and down that lineup. We're a tough team to face, and that's kind of where I'm at on that. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Blake says, I think Dansby is going to take whatever he wants to help keep him here. I somewhat agree. I somewhat agree with you, but I don't necessarily know that it would be whatever he wants to keep him here. I think he's going to want a fair deal, but I definitely think that it's I think it's definitely going to be something fair to him and fair to the Braves. I think it's going to be a hometown deal. Kevin Hagler says, only thinks Swanson will be in L.A. and Trey Turner will be in Atlanta this year. Yeah, I've heard that to some degree. I don't think so. I just don't think it makes sense. That's very reminiscent of the Anthony Rizzo and Freddie Freeman conversation, right? Freddie Freeman's not on the Braves, but where's Anthony Rizzo? Right back on the Yankees. So it's just reminiscent of that. I didn't agree with that at the time. I think it's kind of pointless because if you're going to pay Trey Turner, why not pay Dansby Swanson? I think what you'll see, likely, hopefully, is what I would hope to see is that at the trade deadline or at the All-Star break, you see an extension signed. That's what I'd like to see. You got a month before that, a little bit less than a month. I would like to see that beforehand. Any day now would be nice, but I would hope to see that. If that doesn't happen, then all bets are off. We'll see. We've seen free agency before, and if we have to do it again, then, I'm sure Alex Anthopoulos will handle business, but hopefully it'll be the case. I think Dansby is evolving into a leader. I'd like to see him be a leader on the Braves. I think, he can be a leader on the Braves. And the way he's hitting, the way he's performing, he deserves to get paid. But it's going to have to be a deal that makes sense for the Braves too. Jesse says they're already mad about LA wanting Soto. Well, keep this in mind. Just keep this in mind about Soto. The Braves don't need Juan Soto. Look at our lineup. We don't need Juan Soto. We do not need to pay Juan Soto $350 million over 13 years or more. It just doesn't need to happen. There's nowhere for him to go. So if that gives you any consolation, we don't need it. Let the Dodgers pay him as far as I'm concerned. That being said, we're going to do a video on this. I was ready to record this when I started this. I was really ready to record and talk about Juan Soto. But we're going to talk about that later this week. I'm going to put out a video on it. So I don't want to give out all my info now, but trust me, it's already written down. I'm ready to go with it. We're going to have that at least by tomorrow, I would hope. But hopefully sooner than that, maybe. So we'll see. But yeah, I get why you're mad, but don't be too mad. The Braves don't need him. It'd be different if it's like, man, that's the one that got away. What are we going to do with Juan Soto? We got a right fielder in Ronald Acuna. We got a center fielder, Michael Harris, that we're paying virtually nothing. And we got Eddie Rosario locked up for 2 years. So I don't think we need Juan Soto. I think our main thing is definitely our main thing is definitely pitching. Sorry. Let me see. Blake says Bednar would be awesome, but I could very much see Gregory Soto. Yeah, I really got to take another look at it. I looked at it the other day. There are two on my list that I think are possibilities. Bednar is going to take you're going to have to give a lot of prospects. I don't know that the Braves have the number of prospects that they're going to want because Pittsburgh is very picky about what they give up, and Bednar has been performing. Now, Bednar is not going to be around for when Pittsburgh is successful. I want to say he's like 27. He's not going to be around. But Gregory Soto would be nice too. We'll see. They're both kind of older, but they would be great additions to the night shift. Michael Carey says Ozuna is a liability in left field. I agree with you. That's why I don't think he should play left field. I think he should be all-time DH and never touch the outfield again. But when everybody gets hurt, numbers dwindle and he gets stuck out there. So I agree with you, but I do think he makes the lineup better when he's in it as a DH. Cletus says, Tyler, can we have some thoughts on Vaughn Grissom? Well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've seen highlights to some, I've seen it. I know of him. I haven't been able to, go watch a game in person. I think he's going to be good, but like any prospect, I'm a bit hesitant to say he's going to be great because, look, at one time we thought Drew Waters was going to be great, and we thought Drew Waters was going to be what Michael Harris is now. Prospect, it's all about how they develop, and that's all I can say. I will say that he's got good parenting in Marquise, and I think that they keep him on straight and narrow. They keep him on where he needs to be. They keep him where he needs to be in training and performing, and I think he's got every asset to be successful. And I can't wait to see what he does when he comes up, if he ever does, for the Braves. But we'll see. We'll have to see how it ages. Josh Gillum says, bringing up an old argument, says, wish we had Soler and Jock instead of Ozuna and Rosario. Look, I met Jock Peterson the other day. Very nice guy. I wish we had him too. But at the same time, Jock wanted to go elsewhere. He's a West Coast guy. Wasn't going to happen. Didn't see it in the cards. We got Rosario because he wanted to be in Atlanta. I think we got him fairly cheaply, if I'm not mistaken. But that being said, I wanted Rosario. I really did want Rosario. I think we got him for a 2-year, I want to say like $18 million deal. So we got him for virtually nothing. And yeah, he's been hurt this year, and it sucks. But you got to remember what he did last year. I mean, you got to remember this, right? And I hate to always bring this up, but what he did last year in the postseason cannot be overlooked. And what Jock did in the postseason can't be overlooked. But the consistency that this guy can have over a 162 game season makes all the difference to me. Soler has had a good year. I don't think he's going to be as consistent as Eddie Rosario is when healthy. Now look, nobody could have foreseen that, he wasn't going to be able to see. Like, that was so off kilter that, nobody would have expected that. I wish that it didn't happen, but now that he can see, he's hitting better. That homer the other night was nice, but he's seeing the ball better. He's hitting better. And look, it's going to be an evolution. He's got to get back in the rhythm of things, but I think he's doing it fairly quickly, considering he was 3 for 44 before he went to have surgery. And I think he's already got 6 or 7 hits in 4 or 5 games. So he's doing fine. It would have been nice. Jock's having a great year. Jock's a great player. Soler's having a good year. He's a great player. Eddie, I think, once healthy, will be the same way. I do. Now, in terms of Ozuna we paid well before, any of those guys came around, and I get it. I get the frustration. Sometimes he has an at-bat that I don't particularly like because, his swing's very violent, and that kind of thing. But I do think he's a dangerous hitter in the lineup. I do. I think he makes the lineup better. That being said, he's very unpredictable. So I kind of agree with you on the Ozuna front. I'll stick up for Rosario, though. And that guy's healthy, it makes a difference. And you can see the difference with Rosario. You can visibly see it now that he looked uncomfortable in the box a month or two ago. Now, it's a different player. He's making solid contact. He's seeing the ball better. He's not swinging, out of nowhere. He doesn't look bad. Because, look, I was worried before we knew there was eye trouble. I was worried because I'm the one that came out here and said, we need to re-sign Rosario. I was a little worried when I first saw his swings this year. Once we found out what it was, it's that kind of makes sense that he can't see, the way he's swinging. And it's not something we saw last year, but I don't think he's a bust. I think, it's more so that he genuinely could not see. That being said, but, we'll see. Blake Newsom says, funny enough, my friend, I want to make sure we're on the air. Are we on the air? I hope we are. Yeah, okay, we're still going. Sorry, my computer froze up for some reason. I just wanted to make sure we're still going. So, sorry guys, I'm so mixed up. John Mays says, I agree. I thought he'd get traded for more than a 35th pick, even with his value going down. as much as I think that's the case, it's still, I think we still got a pretty good return. I do, and we'll see what happens. Right, that's all we can really do is see what they do with the 35th pick. But we'll see. Kevin Hagler says AA wanted to sell before Drew's stock fell further. Agreed. If it fell further, then what do you get, right? I completely agree with that. Josh Gillum says, would you trade Ozuna for pitching help and then let Contreras DH every day? His bat needs to be in the lineup every day. Agreed. I'd be fine with that. I would trade Ozuna for prospects at this point to rebuild our farm system. I pitched that to you beginning of the year. I did a video on how we could actually get Soler back. If you don't, you can go find it. It did pretty well. You guys really took to it. It was sort of a theory I had. I just sort of threw it out there. I didn't think it was going to happen. But I would have been fine with that. Trade him for prospects, open up that money, and get Soler, and he'll be your DH. That's what I suggested at the beginning of the season. Little did I know what Contreras would be. But at the same time, that's what I pitched at the beginning of the season. That was before the Olsen trade. That was well before the trade. I want to say it was back in March, if I'm not mistaken. But that being maybe even February. It was early on. But I suggested that. So, yeah, I'm not against an Ozuna trade. The problem is you're paying him the remainder of $64 million over the next 2 years, not even the rest of this year. So that team's going to have to cough up that cash, and I don't know that anybody's going to do that for Ozuna right now, unfortunately. That being said, I do think, again, he is dangerous in the lineup. He makes a difference in the lineup, and I think he's a good player. I just, if I had my preference, yes. Elijah Smith says, I think Ian Anderson's ceiling is a low-end to high-end 3. Low-end 2, high-end 3. Due to this and Soroka potentially coming back, I would be into an Ian Anderson trade and maybe pick up Shane Bieber type of guy. So Shane Bieber. You'd pick up Shane Bieber. I don't know that Ian Anderson would net another starting pitcher. Here's the thing. You're not going to trade Ian Anderson for a better starting pitcher. You're going to have to trade Ian Anderson and somebody. And multiple people to get a better starting pitcher. As much as I'd like to say, yeah, that sounds great, it's not as easy as we might think sometimes, right? But yeah, Ian worries me a bit to some degree. I mean, at one point he had a 5 ERA. That was before the last 2 starts. He's had better starts lately, so that is a good trend. And he's not the one that gave up the 3-run homer yesterday, so let's remember that. The problem with Ian that I notice is that he throws so many pitches. He throws a lot of balls, a lot of full counts, a lot of 2-2 counts, and it's like he doesn't have that put-away stuff, right? It's what you always hear, the put-away stuff. He doesn't have that. He doesn't have strike 3 pitch. And I feel like he gets hit around a little bit because of that. And it's unfortunate, but I think it's not something that he can't fix. It's something that, he got called up early and never went down. He didn't have a lot of time to develop. He really did get called up early in 2020. A lot of people forget that, and I respect Ian for that because what he was able to do in 2020 was solid. Everybody forgets how good he was in 2020. He was solid. I'm not one to just go, let's get him out of here, but there is some issues that need to be addressed, and it's, for me, most of them are throwing too many pitches. And, I mean, think about it. When was the last time you saw Ian Anderson go 6 innings? It's been a minute. It's 7. Kyle Wright and Max Fried regularly 7 innings. 6, at least 6. And if they don't, it's surprising. And Kyle Wright, I think, tried to go into the 8th the other day. So, and that's what I worry about with Ian. But if he can fix that, if he can get that, on a different side of things, Ian's good. I mean, I'm not one to just, let's go trade for Shane Bieber because Shane Bieber is good. That's not really the way I go about it. If there is a need, I'm good with trading. For me, there's so many options within. Soroka, you mentioned Soroka. We don't know what he's going to be. We all know he had a setback the other day, but we don't know what he's going to be when he comes back. But that's an option. Tucker Davidson's an option. Kyle Muller, pitcher of the month in June. Why trade for a pitcher when you have so many options within? That's what I'm more so against. Spartan King, is Kenley Jansen back for the Mets series? I know he was trying to be. I haven't seen it announced. They haven't announced it, at least from what I've seen. I'm about to Google it just to make sure, but I haven't seen anything today, and I haven't seen any kind of update. Usually I would get some kind of notification, but I don't think they've announced it yet. Let me look up Braves injured list and see if there's any kind of update. But no, I don't think I've seen anything. But I do think he'll be back before the end of the series. If he's not back today, I do think he'll be back during the series. He's expected to be activated from the injured list on July 12th. That's from David O'Brien of The Athletic. So he will be back tomorrow, at least he's expected to be. That's what I can tell you. So not tonight, but game 2, he'll be around. Hitman says, I just feel like we're giving up a lot of minor league prospects away and depleting our minor league players away to give up a number 1 overall pick for a number 35 overall pick. On paper, I get you, Hitman. I get you. But think about it. Number 1 overall pick a few years ago in Drew Waters has not lived up to that. He's not matched up to that potential. And he's got nowhere to go. Right? Yeah, it kind of stinks that we didn't trade him for something big. But at the same time, what else are we going to trade him for? I mean, would you have rather gotten a D- bullpen pitcher? You know, like that's kind of where I'm at with it. I would rather take our chances on a number 35 overall pick, to be honest with you. And yeah, I know we traded 3 guys, but the other guys, Andrew Hoffman, C.J. Alexander, they're not, you know, I got a feeling that the Braves know what they traded, right? That's kind of the way I look at it. And now look, if they had traded Drew Waters and Christian Pache a couple of years ago, I would have been feeling the same way you're feeling right now. I would have kind of put my foot down on that. I would have thought that was stupid. But at the same time, number 35 overall pick, I'll take my chances on that. Josh Gillum says, Cano will be 40 in October. Yes, 40. I don't see the good in this signing at all. The good in this signing is that it didn't cost anything. That's the good in this signing. And it's just to fill the gap while Ozzie is hurt. Ozzie's not going to be hurt the whole year. And look, we're taking a chance. Cano could be gone tomorrow, right? It wouldn't hurt us. I mean, you're talking about, you know, little to no money. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this is little to no money. It's not hurting us. If we don't like it, if it's not successful, then no harm done. But if it is successful, what a pick it is. What a pickup it is. So we'll see. I mean, I like the thought of it. And yeah, he's 40 years old, but, you know, it is what it is. Dude's still a good hitter. He's still doing well in minor leagues. We'll see how it translates to the majors. That's all we can really do. Kevin Hagler says, what if Cano hits the walk-off homer to propel the Braves in first? It would be nuts, wouldn't it? I said earlier that I think Cano should walk over there and hand the Mets his change of address so they can deliver his check for today's game. But yeah, it'd be crazy if it happened. I can't wait to watch it tonight. Rick Prada says, Elijah, how about sending Ian and our draft and who knows what else for the Baltimore Orioles pick to get Jones? Well, see, Rick, the thing about that is we are playing to win now. I mean, we're defending World Series champions. We're not trying to win in 3 years. In that case, I might change my opinion. And as much as I'd love to get Andrew Jones' kid, I don't think that's an option here. And I don't know what it would take to do that, to tell you the truth. It's not a bad idea necessarily, but I don't think it's fit for the Braves. If I was the Oakland Athletics, I might have a different opinion, or the Nationals, but they're on rebuild stages. The Braves are here to play. And that's why our minor leagues are depleted, is because they're all in the majors and they're successful. So, you know, it is what it is. Richard Davis says, Dansby is a spark. Losing him will be worse than Freeman. I can kind of see that. I don't know necessarily. I think they'd both be kind of hurtful. Freeman also had the time put in more so than Dansby. Dansby's been around since 2016. Freeman's been around since, 07 or 09? I mean, maybe not quite. Maybe 2011. But he's been around a lot longer. I don't know that that's necessarily the case. Dansby's also never vocally expressed, I want to stay in this uniform for, you know, the entire season. He's a hometown kid. I think he'd like to, but I don't remember him making such a point like Freddie did, quite so much anyway. Josh Gillen wants to know, why did we sign Kinley over re-signing Soler, or why did we sign Kinley over re-signing Soler and Jock? Because we had outfield covered. Acuna came back. Michael Harris was coming up. We didn't need outfielders. We got one of those 3 guys, Soler, Jock, Rosario. They were needed last year. We also had Duvall. There was nowhere for them to play. Yeah, it would have been nice to re-sign Jock, but what's Jock going to do right now for you? He might play left field, but that's only because, I mean, you're going to be picking between Soler, Jock, and Rosario. And I just don't think it made sense. I think it was right to sign a bullpen piece, whether or not you like Kenley or not. That it was correct to sign a legit bullpen piece, and there's no one more proven in the big leagues right now at reliever in terms of years put in than Kenley. And you can throw me Josh Hader, I get that, but Kenley has been year in, year out a great reliever, and I think it was a good signing. Is it a little bit too much money? Maybe, but you can afford to do that when you save money elsewhere. You can go get guys like that. So I don't know that it's necessarily the best move we've ever made, but I don't think it's a bad one. And in terms of the Jock Soler thing, here's the thing, guys. You're not going to hold a World Series team together. You're just not. It's tough. It's very tough. The fact that we held as many pieces together as we did, I think, is surprising. I mean, look, I would have liked to have gotten Freeman back, but it didn't work out. Soler, I would have liked to have gotten back. I think you needed at least one of those guys, and I think Eddie Rosario fits the bill. And anything is great with hindsight, right? No one could have told me beginning of the season that Eddie Rosario was going to go half blind at the plate. You couldn't have told me that. And if you could, then you got some knowledge that I don't, and the Braves don't, and Eddie Rosario doesn't. So it was unexpected. I really think you're going to see an uptick in Eddie Rosario's potential and performance. I really do. So let's just take a step back. I don't think it's as bad as we make it out to be sometimes, and I really don't. Josh also says the only blemish on AA is his 1-year pitching signing. They've been brutally bad. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think, AA does what he can to fix a problem in a moment's notice. Now, the Kenley Jansen thing, we're not through the year yet. Let's see how it ages, right? Everybody talks about Will Smith. Will Smith was elite last year in the postseason. Did not give up one run through the NLDS, to the NLCS, and through the World Series. So you can hate on these guys day to day, but you got to take a step back sometimes. And I think we're starting to see that more with the pen. Also, the bullpen this year has been overworked. Matzek's out. Kirby Yates is out. Kenley's out. Luke Jackson's out. They've been overworked. You got guys in there that aren't going to be there at the end of the year. So you can be mad about it, but just realize this is not the same team you're going to see on a postseason roster. You're just not. You won't see Luke Jackson, unfortunately, but Tyler Matzek is back. Notice the pen's gotten a little bit better since Matzek's been back. Will Smith, I think we'll lock in at some point. Kenley will be back. Kirby Yates is coming back. And I think we need bullpen help. I would love to go get Bednar, to tell you the truth. I don't know if I want to commit to him for as long as his contract is. I'd like to go get Soto. I'd like to go get those guys. But at the same time, there's only one person, or we'll say a handful of people, that know exactly what the Braves need to do. And those are the guys that are in that office, that are looking at the team day to day. They know what's available. They know what they can get. They know how much everything costs. And they know how much other teams value their players. That's the Braves front office. That's all I can tell you. I wish I could tell you all that information. I can't. And they keep a very tight lip. And, I mean, you can get mad about all these moves, but you got to take a step back and realize the guy you're talking about making all these bad moves just won a World Series. In my opinion, Alex Anthopoulos was the MVP of last year's season. Hands down. I mean, the trade deadline is probably the greatest trade deadline I've seen ever. Like, I don't know of another. You can tell me one player, but 4 players or 5 players that fit the need as well as those guys did last year. Eddie Rosario, NLCS MVP. Jorge Soler, World Series MVP. Jock Peterson, I would venture to say, would have been the NLDS MVP if there was such a thing. Those 3 guys alone. Find me one other time that has happened. Just the NLCS MVP and World Series MVP at the trade deadline. Find me one more time in history. I doubt you will. Now, granted, that's a shot in the dark, but Richard Rodriguez was a good pickup for the pen. It stabilized the pen for the second half. Whether or not you agree with that or not, he did. I mean, he stabilized the pen. Didn't last forever, but he did stabilize it for a time. Adam Duvall hit a grand slam in the World Series. So, I mean, yeah, the only blemish, you can pick a few things, but when you have that much on the good side, I can overlook a lot of the bad. That's just me, though. Looks like we got a Mets fan in the chat. Coach K says we need 1 or 2 moves in the pen. I agree with you. I I mentioned Bednar a few times. That's the guy I'm really looking at. Would like to get Bender for the Marlins. That would be cool. Gregory Soto would be cool. I mean, we can sit here and theorize all day long about who we could go get. It's not really the way I go about it. I always try to give you an educated guess. I really have to go look at my notes again. But those are the guys that I think, fit the bill. The position players, who are we going to get on the bench better than RC and Heredia right now? That's the way you got to think, right? We're not going to find anybody that much better. I mean, we've had Phil Gosselin come through. Mike Ford's come through. Right now we got Robbie Cano. He'll probably be a bench bat by the end of the season. So, at that point, it is what it is. But you're not going to find anything better than those two guys. I don't think, just that are willing to sit on the bench and play. Now, that being said, beyond that, the position players are pretty much stacked. I mean, we're pretty much how we are going to be at the end of the year. I'll just tell you. To get a player that we're not familiar with on the Braves, to get them on the field for the Braves, you're going to have to trade a major player. You can trade Dansby Swanson if you don't extend him at the deadline, if you want to do that. But I don't know that the Braves are going to do that because they want to compete for this year. So you could potentially make that trade and maybe trade for Trey Turner. Somebody mentioned that. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it makes sense. But to get someone on the field as a position player, you're going to have to trade a major player. And it might be Eddie Rosario, could be whoever, right? But you're going to have to make that trade. I don't think the Braves are going to do that. I think they're going to be successful with what they have on the field right now. The only place I can see changing is a low-level bench bat, if you want to do that, or the bullpen. That's what I see that can be done. That's just me. But that's kind of what I look at and I go, yep, that's the biggest need. And a lot of it, I told you this at the beginning, I told you this weeks ago, I don't know that there's necessarily moves to be made. We talked a lot about, Alex Anthopoulos is getting ready to do something. That could happen, but it also could be that Alex Anthopoulos is playing poker and he's holding this year. I don't know that it's necessarily going to be something done. It could be that we're waiting for guys to get back and be healthy. Kirby Yates, Mike Soroka, Luke Jackson next year if you want to do that. We just got Matzik back. That's made a major impact. Ozzie Albies is coming back. You may just wait on those acquisitions, right? And we're not the only team, guys. Look across the way at the NL West. The Padres. Tatis is coming back at some point, right? So we're not the only team that's waiting on major players to come back and be healthy. The Padres may be active at the deadline. I don't know. They could use some help in their outfield right now. But that being said, Tatis, that's a major player coming back. Same as Ozzie. And, you can say who's better. I don't care. But Ozzie's a major player coming back. You got more major players coming back. You got players that we haven't even seen in a Braves uniform coming in the second half. Kirby Yates. I've mentioned him a time or two. Everybody forgets that dude's an elite closer. He's probably going to pitch the 8th for us. Or maybe even the 7th when he first comes back. So just take a step back. We might need bullpen support, but we might just call in our own reinforcements. Just keep that in mind. This is all very interesting. This is all very, very interesting. I love this kind of conversation. Again, I appreciate you guys tuning in. 116 of you watching, that tells you how much the trade deadline is important to fans. And, I absolutely love it. But, yeah, so let's see what else we got. Richard Davis, why would the Braves pay Turner $75, $100 million more for Turner over Swanson? Agreed. It doesn't make sense. Swanson's the go-to for that. I don't think you can look at that and make that trade. Trey's a great player, fast as I don't know what, but at the same time, why would you get rid of someone who fits the clubhouse? Everybody keeps talking about clubhouse. Why? If you're, let's be real, right? Let's just be real for a second. If you're building a team, if you are putting together a team, your first pick for shortstop in the National League is more than likely going to be Trey Turner. Let's just be real about it, right? If you're picking a team on MLB The Show, it's probably going to be Trey Turner, right? I get it. But in real life, and picking a team where you can't just go pick anybody you want, you're probably going to be just fine with Dansby Swanson. I'm just fine with Dansby Swanson. Dansby has carried this team offensively, been probably the most consistent hitter all year, right, with the exception of Michael Harris recently. But that dude up and down the 162 has been super consistent. And I don't think you're going to find anybody any better. You could tell me it's a contract year. I don't care. This is the most consistent we've ever seen Dansby, and he's a leader, and I think that's important. That being said, it's up to Dansby. He's got to re-sign too. So we'll see how it goes. I wish I could tell you Dansby's going to be back. I did that once before. I'm not confident to say it again. So we'll see. We will see. See you, Just Inventory. Thanks for tuning in. Robert Blackman says, remember, we are the champs. A lot of people tend to forget that. True to Atlanta says, I feel like a big reason for players signing smaller contracts is because they are from Atlanta and they were former Braves fans. Could be. I think that's kind of a component in the Matt Olson deal to some degree because he's from around here. That being said, I don't think it's for everybody. Acuna signed a small deal. He's not from this country, much less Georgia. Ozzie Albies, not from this country. He signed a small deal. Dansby is from this area, so we will see what he does. Riley's from Mississippi, right? So you might see that. But there's Braves fans all throughout the country. It's not just from around here. They're everywhere. So we will see. We will see what happens with Dansby. We'll see what happens with Riley in a couple of years. I think they're more than likely going to come back, if I'm honest with you. But that being said, it's not for me to say it's definitely going to happen. I'm not going to predict it, but I'm telling you, if I had like a gut feeling, that's how I feel. SIE says, Braves for the division, beat Mets in playoffs, beat Yankees in World Series. Sorry, I jumped. You guys are active today. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Wow, okay. SIE, sorry about that, says Braves for the division, beats Mets in the playoffs. Probably, okay. Beat Yankees in a World Series. I'm from NYC. I'm going to be talking so much trash. You do that, man. You do that. You go find Frank the Tank and you tell him your mind, okay? Josh Gillum says, give me Jacob deGrom over Soto any day. All right, I'm going to backtrack on this. I like Jacob deGrom. I like Juan Soto. That being said, Jacob deGrom, I have questions about. With all the injuries, I just have questions about. I'm not saying I wouldn't take him because I would. I'd be dumb not to. He's on my fantasy team now. Bad choice. But, it is what it is. That being said, deGrom is a great pitcher. Soto is a great hitter. The thing that I'm with right now is we do not need another outfielder. We don't even need a DH. Offense is fine. That is not the Braves' priority. It's holding down the other team's offense that needs to be our priority. And some days it'll be the other way around. But the main prerogative is pitching. And I firmly believe that. I think it's more so on the bullpen side of things right now. But also you gotta see what you can hold out for. If you can hold out for all these guys coming back, then do that. Don't spend the money. But we'll see. Richard Davis says the Braves won't trade Anderson. He's just going through a rough patch. I agree. More than likely, Morton won't be back next year. Braves need to go to a 6-man rotation when Soroka comes back. I could see that. I could see that, but wouldn't that be a 5-man rotation with Anderson, Soroka, Strider? I think it'd be a 5-man rotation. I don't know. I have to do the math. I got a lot going on in my brain right now. Sorry about it. Jay White says, interesting that Waters and Pache were considered untouchable for some time, and one barely made an impact on the big league roster, and one never made it to Atlanta. That's how prospects work, man. I've been telling y'all for years, if you're going to trade them, do it now because they have value, and it's hard to tell. It's just hard to tell. So I don't know. It is interesting. It might tell you something about the way we develop prospects, but that being said, look at the other prospects we developed. They've been fine. So I don't know necessarily, but it is interesting, and it's going to continue. I hate to say it. You're going to see more of that. The longer you watch this game, you're going to see more and more of that. Cletus says, why do Michael Harris bombs just sound different? I'll tell you this. When I was at the game the other night, Acuna hit that one. That was solid. I mean, it was loud. There's a few that are just loud. Michael Harris has got that swing. I'll be honest with you. I know he's had great offensive numbers. I'm more excited about his defense. I mean, that kid wants to play. He runs hard. He makes plays that other guys just don't. And it's different watching him. Like when I went to the game the other day, right? my buddy's like, man, I really like to see Michael Harris walk it off or something tonight, right? I really like to see him hit a homer, which we did. But I was more, because I want to see his route. I want to see him run. I want to see him catch one on the run. I want to see what his range is. Because here's the thing. You can watch it on TV, but you can't get an appreciation until you see how many steps that dude takes to get to the ball. And we saw him do the one where he ran into the fence the other night, and it was impressive. That dude is moving, okay? And Acuna is a good outfielder. He ain't as fast as Michael Harris on the field. I'm sorry. Woke up Alexa. But yeah, it's not the same as Michael Harris. In my opinion, it's just not. That being said, he is a different type of player. So it's going to be fun watching him grow into himself. Mark says, kind of really want to get Ozuna, but he says, kind of really want to get rid of Ozuna, but I know we can't. Yep. Not right now. I mean, if somebody needed a DH real bad, I said at the beginning of the year you might be able to trade him because of the National League integrating the DH, but we never did. I think the Braves are pretty content with Ozuna. You know, it's not the best deal we ever made. It's certainly not the worst, but it's not the best. But it'll be what it'll be at this point. I think he's a good teammate. I mean, the guys seem to like him. You know, even with all the, you know, extracurriculars, the guys seem to like him. That being said, you know, we'll see how it ages, I guess. You know, what if he won an MVP next year? Then everybody would say it was the best deal ever, right? It's very subjective. Subi Loop says, hey Tyler, I'm 32 and I remember in 99 watching the Braves. I hate to do it to you, Subi. I was born in 99. I do not remember that, but I was born. I was there. Jesse says the Braves need no outfield help, bullpen, and maybe a big bench bat. A big bench bat's interesting, but I want you to consider the fact that I agree on the no outfield help, definitely bullpen help. But I want you to consider the fact that now with Rosario and Duvall back, you're always going to have a bench bat, whether it be Rosario or Duvall. And the thing about that is, what I've been telling people, what I think is going to happen is you're going to see Rosario and Duvall platoon in left field because Michael Harris is not going anywhere. Make no mistake about it. You know, he's just not. But I think a lot of it is going to depend on whether or not you got a righty or lefty pitching. Now, that's not all the time. You know, have the Braves released the starting lineup tonight? I don't think they have. I don't know if it's Duvall or if it's Rosario in the lineup today. Nope, no lineup. But to me, and I would be surprised if it's not this way, with a righty pitching, with Scherzer pitching, I would not be surprised if we saw Rosario in the lineup over Duvall. I think you're going to see a platoon in left field. And I might be wrong tonight just because Duvall's first night back, but I think in general that's what you're going to see. And then once you bring in a lefty, you might see a switch late in the game if need be. But that's kind of what I see right now. But we will see. Cletus, I have no idea. He says Diego Benitez is 17 and he's expected to be 20 when expected time of arrival. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, here's the thing. Don't look at that expected time of arrival as fact, because they said that Pache was going to arrive in 2019. They said they've been saying Drew Waters was going to arrive for 2 or 3 years now. Look at the date. Look what's happening right now, right? So just don't take it as fact. I just don't know that that's necessarily, just, and to be fair to those guys, the COVID year did affect it, but I don't know that that's necessary. It's just not fact. It might be, they probably would be on major league teams on other teams, like the Royals, like we're trading to them. The A's, Pache started the year on the A's. I think he got sent back to the minors eventually, but, he wouldn't have been starting in center, at no point this year. So it's just, you got to think about it. You got to think about it a little bit deeper. You got a lot of prospects for the Braves too. So who really knows? Richard Davis says the Braves are not going to trade Ozuna with 14 to 17 homers in the middle of the year, but he has been on a little bit of a hotter streak. I'm not saying it's been a hot streak because it hasn't, but it is what it is. Richard Davis also says, boy, how people forget what Anderson did in the playoffs. I'm going to stop you right there because I did not forget. I got into an argument with somebody about this. I'm not going to release their name. I'm not going to embarrass them. But it was my brother. I got into an argument with somebody the other day, and they thought that Ian Anderson pitched Game 5 of the World Series last year. And I had to remind him that no, he pitched 5 innings of no-hit baseball in Game 3. Completely left his mind. And he's a baseball fan. He watches. He forgot that was Tucker Davidson. Okay? He's had a rough patch. I agree with you on this, Richard. I do. Because a lot of people do forget about that. They forget the good moments and they remember the bad. Right? That happens in every sport. It happens in every walk of life. It happens. They always remember the bad moments. They tend to forget the good ones. Ian has all the potential in the world. There's some problems he's having. I don't think trading him is the answer. I don't think, no. He's going to be good. But he's got to make some adjustments. I think we can all agree there. But yeah, a lot of people do forget about that. Do not forget, Ian Anderson is a fundamental part as to why we won the World Series last year. Hank says, we'll be so glad to get Ozzie back. Miss him in the lineup. Yeah, I miss the switch hitter too. As much as I'd like him to stop switch hitting, I miss him too. Cletus says, if Ian Anderson is still lights out in the playoffs, the Braves probably won't trade him. Get that out of your mind, guys. They ain't trading Ian Anderson. It's not happening. John Main says, we do not need a starting pitcher. I agree with you, Tyler. Thank you. Just Inventory says, I had to come back after hearing the Ian Anderson comments. Ian had the best start in the World Series last year and a 2-0 win. He had no hitter through 5 or 6 innings. Big game player matter. Dan's been freed. I agree, guys. It's not me talking about Ian Anderson. It's not me. I'm just saying through this year, it's been a rough patch. There are some people talking bad about him, though. I don't agree. Ian Anderson was lights out in the postseason last year. Will Smith was lights out in the postseason last year, too. Don't forget that either. A lot of people tend to forget that. They forget the journey that we had last year. It's very similar to the one we're having this year. So we'll see. Jorge says, hear me out. Trade for Shohei Ohtani. Well, somebody's got to get him out of Anaheim, but it ain't going to be us. Just Inventory says, my biggest worry is how we keep AA after all these World Series runs. That's a good question. The thing about it, and this isn't perfect, the thing about it is this. I think we would have been all right with Capalella. I'm not saying we would have had the success we had last year, but I think we would have still been all right with Capalella. We were built for success under Capalella. And AA kind of picked it up where he left off. But even then, you get a bad general manager, things change. At some point somebody's going to come after him. Hopefully he stays like the guy's name in the chat. Hopefully he stays true to Atlanta and hangs around because I think he's a key part of the success for sure. John Main says Cano was well worth it. Yeah, you're talking less than league minimum. Of course Cano's worth it. And I'll stand by that. And look, even if he doesn't work out, I've said this about tons of players, even if Cano just absolutely is terrible, it's worth it. It's worth it. You're covering up second base for Ozzie. It's worth it. The dude is worth a shot in the dark. I'll take it. Bob Kelly, good friend of mine, formerly known as Brother Francis. He's a good friend of mine. Thanks for tuning in, Bob. He says, talking about picking up Peterson. I'm not. A lot of people are. They want to. Personally, I think that era has passed, but a lot of people wish we had kept Peterson, which I can't say that I don't agree, but even then I don't know that there was ever a spot for him. Chop Shop says, Cano was washed up 5 years ago. He will pull 2 hamstring if he draws a walk. Watch your mouth. You're talking about a very good hitter. Look, Cano doesn't have to be what he was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, he was playing every day for 162. If he needs an off day, he can give it to Arcia. He may be a bench bat, guys. We don't know what his role is going to be. But don't just disregard Cano. Cano has been a very good hitter for the entirety of his career, and I don't think we just need to look over that. He's a little older, but, we can look past it. I mean, Bartolo Colon's talking about making a return. I think we can get over 40. I think it's going to be fine. Just Inventory says Dansby could be our Jeter 10 years from now. Sure. Sure. Guys, I'm going to have to get out of here pretty soon. You guys are absolutely blowing me up, and I appreciate it. I appreciate every bit of it. Here's the thing. If you want to, if you want me to answer your question, like just a guaranteed answer, super chat me, because that's the only way I can really narrow it down. If you super chat, that gets priority. That's just how it works. I wish I could do it a different type of way, but I can't, and I don't mind being paid. So super chats is the way to get to it. Other than that, I'm going in order. So if you see me delayed, if you see me taking a while on a question, I do that because I want to answer the question. But I also try to give you a little bit longer answer if you super chat. So if you super chat, make sure it's a good question. I'll be sure to give a proper answer. Jesse says, if we lose Dansby, I can't see anyone out there like Olsen. You can replace him and hardly miss him. Yeah, I don't know about that. Dansby, if we lose Dansby, there's options. I mean, you got Shoemaker in the minors. You got Arcia right now. You could get by without Dansby. That being said, he's been a spark plug this year. I don't want to lose Dansby. And if you want to go free agents, obviously Trey Turner, like we mentioned. But you got Trevor Story out there. I don't think he's exactly too thrilled with his contract in Boston. I mean, there's certainly options. That being said, Dansby's our guy, and I think it needs to stay that way. Kenneth Lewis says, what about another starter? Mike Soroka is a big question mark. I don't agree with the starter. I don't, because here's the thing. You got 5 guys right now that are pitching fairly decent. If Ian Anderson's your worst pitcher, you're not doing bad, right? You got Max Fried, who's been great this year. Charlie Morton, who's found his way this year. Ian Anderson, who's been okay. Spencer Strider has come out of nowhere and been dominant. And, it's been fine. It's been fine. Could it be better? Sure. But I don't know that it's necessarily a problem. And, when you look at it and you think about it, it makes sense to me. Kyle Wright also been great this year. It makes sense to me that people are saying we need to start pitching because we always seem to need starting pitching, and they're all worried about Soroka. We have a 5-man rotation right now that is good. Max Fried, Kyle Wright, both been great. Charlie Morton's found his way. He's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Ian Anderson, going to be okay. Spencer Strider, coming out of nowhere, been dominant. In the minors, that's 5. In the minors, Kyle Muller, pitcher of the month in June. Tucker Davidson, World Series experience. May not be great experience, but it's still World Series experience. Dude's pretty good, and he's got time to grow. You have options. There's plenty of options. Bryce Elder, Jesse Franklin. I mean, we could go all day long about what we got in the minors, and I know we're not ranked that great, but we got some pitching in the minors. You have options. Waskari Noah's down there. So, that being said, even if Soroka doesn't work out, even if he was to come out and God forbid, tear his Achilles again, even if that was to happen, you have plenty within. Now, could you go get something better? Probably. But that being said, you're doing fine. You have to get the whole picture. You can't just color part of it. You got to get the whole picture. You got to cover everything. And you can't just focus on pitching. You can't just focus on a bench bat. It's everything, right? Look at what you have and then adjust, right? You got position players. They're pretty much handled. Right? You're good on that. Okay, what about starting rotation? We're pretty much covered on that. Could be better. We'll work on that later, but we're pretty much covered. The bullpen, that's where it gets rocky, everybody. That's where it gets rocky. And you got to take that into consideration when you're looking at free agents and you're looking at the trade deadline. That's what you want to make sure you're shored up on is that bullpen. Even if you got to stick some guys in the minors just for depth, you got to make sure you're good there. So we'll see. A lot of folks talking about the pen, I see. Tanya says, I've got a Mets fan in the chat. Hello, Tanya. We will sweep the ATL. I don't think so. I think you guys are looking in the rear view and objects are closer than they appear. But we'll see. Cole's Clip says, I'm liking how Austin is having a great July so far. Agreed. I agree. Austin's performing very well. But we'll see how it goes. Coach K says that would be a great... Okay, sorry. Billy says, I don't think we need a trade. I don't either. The only trade I could see is for bullpen help. That's pretty much all I'm at. That's where I'm at. Hank Durer says, I think the Mets would love to have Alex. As a Braves fans, I'm glad we have him. Yeah, for sure. I don't know what team wouldn't want Alex Anthopoulos right now. I think he's, when does his contract expire? Because we all need to go get a GoFundMe and check that out, because that dude is a necessity. Let me see. I don't know. I can't do it right now. I'm too busy streaming. All right. Tyler Shepard says, if we don't get Swanson, I'd take Turner. Well, yeah, I think at that point, yeah. But before that, it's like, all right, let's lock down Swanson. And if it doesn't work out at that point, yeah, go get Turner. Go get somebody, right? You kind of got to. Stormy says, Strider's innings does concern me that he could struggle late in season. He has never pitched more than 100 innings, and he is at 60-ish innings right now. Let's handle that when we get there, because keep in mind, Soroka is coming back. So if it need be, we could deal with that. I don't think they're going to overwork him. I don't think that's going to be the problem. I think, the velocity is definitely a reason to be concerned. But I get why you're concerned, because obviously there's reason to be with that kind of velocity. But just don't worry about it too much. I don't think it's quite that big of a deal. Richard Davis, clubs have to watch the 40-man roster spots and the spots in the minors. You open a spot with the Waters trade. True. We'll see who comes up. Yeah, all right. Whatever. I'm about to wrap it up, guys. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I really do. I'm sort of watching the chat, but, kind of get any kind of idea of what I can do. But, yeah, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, big news today. I'm going to recap this one last time. Last night, we all have talked about this. Last night, the Braves picked up Robinson Cano, and I thought that was a great deal for the money we're paying him, because not only are we paying him league minimum, the Mets are paying the majority of his $24 million that he's signed to, and we're not even paying him league minimum. We're paying him prorated league minimum, which is right around $250,000. And I'll gladly do it for what he's going to be doing for the Braves, hopefully. So he will take the field tonight at second base, and that's going to be that. To make room on the roster for that, they designated Phil Gosselin for assignment, and they optioned Mike Ford to AAA. Thank you, August. Thank you very much. Hope you've subscribed, and I hope you'll tell your friends about it. She said she is a first-time watcher. Great show. Thank you very much. We do a lot of content here. And again, because she said it, make sure to like the video on the way out, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here at On Deck, and of course with the Atlanta Braves and all across Major League Baseball. We got a Juan Soto video coming later this week, probably tomorrow, but with all the trade, if something like this happens, I'm going to have to postpone it. But it is ready to go and ready to be recorded, so we will try to get that to you tomorrow as soon as I can. Also, just before we get going, Cano will be active tonight, and of course, the other big news today, Drew Waters. Thank you, Mark. Drew Waters traded. Very unexpected. I'm not say unexpected, but it's very early. That's what kind of caught me off guard. Drew Waters has lost a lot of value. He's lost a ton of value in what he's worth, obviously, right? So you got to trade him for something before he's worth nothing. And I think we did that. I think we're taking our chances on another try on a prospect with a 35th pick overall. I'm all right with it. By the way, the Braves draft, that will happen Sunday, by the way. So the draft is Sunday. Make sure to watch. We get to see who they pick. We can research them. We can pick it apart. The Braves draft exceptionally well. Last couple of years, they got Bryce Elder, Jesse Franklin, Spencer Strider, all in the same draft. So we'll see what happens. And, yeah, I love talking Braves baseball with you guys as well. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Hank. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, August. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. I really do appreciate it. And it's always fun talking baseball with you guys. Obviously, big deal. We're going to talk more about the trades. But the biggest thing you can do for me, if you like watching the show, the biggest thing you can do for me is liking the video, subscribing to the channel. Tell your friends about it. Share it. Share it on Reddit, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever. I share it as well, but it only goes so far. You are how we are successful. So make sure you share it and do all of that stuff. I'll be glad to talk with you in the comments. If you want to drop a comment, go watch some of the other videos. They're all pretty good stuff. And, of course, we will keep you updated right here all year long. And we'll be happy to do it. So thank you again, Quaker. Quacker. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you, all you guys. We're heading out. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Go Braves. Make sure to tune in tonight. Max Scherzer versus Max Fried tonight. Braves versus Mets. See you later right here and On Deck.